always evolving. And this is why I said earlier to try to learn what the priorities are for the people at the other side. Hopefully the company's organized enough where the priorities are clear, and so the priority should trickle down when it comes to how goals are set from a company, right? So the CEO's goals trickle down to the executive team, which trickle down to the VPs or whatever, and eventually to the front level people, right? Once you start to go beyond how is my product being used, and you start to focus on what are your problems, what are your strategic priorities, then you realize, okay, this is a really strategic priority for this company. Their competitor has the same strategic priority. Okay, now I'm playing chess. Now I'm thinking beyond what product features exist. I'm thinking more about, wow, these guys really are trying to solve a bigger problem, and I actually think this is an expansion opportunity for us that matches our vision. Eventually, I did this. I'll give you one quick anecdote, right? We were trying to diversify our revenues as an ad platform beyond iOS, being at the mercy of Apple. We also wanted more channels beyond Android at Google. So we partnered with Amazon and Microsoft, and we knew that for them, building a third-party developer ecosystem at that time was a priority. We worked on that to the point where I finally got a meeting with Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. Yeah. And once you realize you're solving a problem and you're building a product, and that product gets visibility in a company, suddenly you're not just a CRM tool, you're not just a data management platform. You are the way they run their business. You are the way they achieve their strategic priority. The world changes for you once you talk to customers in a different way.
How did you go about doing that? Out of curiosity.
We obviously had we talked to big companies. We knew they wanted to get into the app space. We knew we wanted to build a product that would diversify us, and we're thinking, how do we grow beyond iOS and Android? And so Amazon and Microsoft, and candidly, they were potential acquirers for us too, right? I mean, big companies. And so you figure, okay, we're hearing that they want to develop a developer ecosystem. Let's talk to them. Let's try to see what they're doing. Okay, this is a real strategic priority. Oh wow, this SVP, his neck is on the line because this guy's being tasked with building a developer ecosystem. Well, you know what? Why don't we come in and help them? We sat down with us. How can we help you? In the end, it turned into, okay, you invest into this initiative, and all types of things happen here. By the way, this is how you do corporate development. Okay, if you want to get your company acquired, or you want good, acquisition opportunities, you need to develop a corporate development arm or initiative where you will partner with large companies and you'll build strategic projects that And this is tough because it might not be a long-term thing for your company, like the strategic project. But hey, if that strategic project can make a difference for the acquirer, right? Interesting. It might not even turn into an acquisition. We had a discussion, and it's far along in the past, so I wouldn't say it's confidential. It's moot, it's irrelevant, right? But we had conversations around some of these large companies investing in our company, being part of our next growth round. So that's how we did it. We eventually took a lot of money in sort of co-development, right? They would subsidize our development. We used all of the resources Microsoft and Amazon both had, and we were piggybacking on their sales channels. We were invited on stage at conferences. Amazing. And that's because we weren't pitching our company as it is. We were pitching our company as the solution to a strategic problem.
Yeah. That's funny you say that, because we're going through a pilot right now, and we basically say, look, whoever's the core, this is not even a decision maker thing. This is who is under the pressure to solve this problem, right? And who is experiencing it the most. We need to do anything and everything. Going back to the do what doesn't scale thing. If we can buy this person groceries and deliver them to the house, and that makes their life better so that they can more effectively do their job, then that's what we need to do, right? Because we need to make his life or her life better, so that they love our product, that we're a key part of the way they now work, right? That they just can't operate without us. That's what we're living and breathing right now. So it's interesting to see that sort of holds true.
Roger, in an earlier segment, we were talking about not being distracted, focusing on a core problem, right? This isn't distraction. This is product development. When you're asking what someone's problems are, what their strategic priorities are, and then you're seeing that resonate across different client bases, and you go build that out, That's how you run a company. That's how you do product development. The
Yeah.
problem I have, and the reason I was trying to scare everyone earlier in the earlier segment where we talked about, how you shouldn't add feature atop a feature and how it can blow up the code base, is because if you're just doing this based on what you think is needed, and you're not, you don't have a core yet, and you're just fumbling together, trying to hack something together that's just like, how many times have I heard? I once fell victim to this. I almost launched a startup and I was like, okay, I'm going to be like Google with Facebook with Clubhouse combined. Like, no. Just do one thing really well. Once you do that one thing really well, then add another thing on top. But make sure that you've got customers that are willing to buy that, and use that. Then,
well, I think
that's.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's what I was saying. Then that's okay once you do that.
Yeah, I think to that point, like if you think about, no matter what you're selling, right? At the end of the day, someone has to have a problem that you are trying to either solve or make their life simpler, right? Or easier in some way, right? Yeah, so you can talk about the fact that you have features, X, Y, and Z, right? But in order for them to even experience problems X, Y, and Z, they need to get past problems A, B, and C, right? Because, well, I think about TermSheet, right? Like our whole vision is this sort of data management platform, right? Like the idea that you have in real estate teams across the board have all this disparate data, right? Whether they've collected it themselves, whether they're consuming it from other places, whether it's spreadsheet, whatever it is that they're maintaining, and they know they want to do something with it, but they don't really know how, what, why, how to get started. So that's like, again, sort of our vision of I talk about the data journey, right? Like where we think companies will get to. Everyone's in a different step on that journey. But oftentimes when we talk to teams, it's like, okay, that's cool. Like I know I want to use my data, but realistically, like I'm just trying to manage my deals right now. You know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to make some sense out of the chaos that goes on my deal team when my managing director asks me, well, what's the status on these 10 deals, or has this offer been accepted, or where's the file that the LOI that I wrote for X, Y, and Z. That's the problem that they're facing today, right? So our belief is that we can help them solve that problem, right? And that eventually they'll be able to begin asking the questions, okay, great, like I have all this data, either I've collected from my own deals or I've done research on, that they can then leverage to inform their decisions, but they know they want to get there, they're not even going to be able to get there unless they can just get out of the chaos of daily work.
That's somewhat enlightening, isn't it? When you realize your product is solving so many key problems that that they can improve their workflow so much more now by using your solution, that there's even more things they can do. Before they were complaining, I have no shelter. Now they're complaining, I'm bored and I want, I want to have some entertainment, right? See the difference there, right? Different degrees of problems. And I think it's very enlightening, I said, because if you have a customer that doesn't use your product yet, and you're seeing how they operate, and you're like, wow, the problems they have are so ancient. People that use our products have different problems. They're now asking to do more with it. They're asking to operate at a higher level.
Yeah.
This is when it becomes like don't want to use war analogies, but or religious analogies, it's like a crusade. It feels like a holy type of mission that you have. And you need to convince your sales team. Like your sales team isn't just selling something. They feel like, oh my God, this customer needs this. It's like we're the medics. We're coming on scene, coming with our technology solution to make their life easier. Once you convince your sales team that, look, and this is why internally you should always have case studies and show your company. Look, this customer used us. This is how they operated before. This is how they operate now. Look at the questions they're asking. Look at the business decisions they're making. Look how much more revenue they can make. Look at the feature requests they have. Now, when you go onto the field and you're dealing with these other customers who don't know what we do, just imagine how much of a duty you have to help them. They're struggling. Once your sales team acts like that, you can never motivate them with commission. You can never motivate them with salaries, right? They can be motivated with, teamwork and recognition, but that inspiration, that impact is what will motivate them to be like, no, Mr. Customer, you really need to listen to me. Like, that's why they'll knock on the door and they'll get that sale for you. So it's exciting when you have a product that can even do that,
Yeah, it is exciting, and it's exciting that we feel like we can. It's like you said, we call it a journey. You can use the crusade.
But a journey better.
Yeah. No one dies in a journey, I guess. But the idea that you know where you want to get to. Here are the steps that we're going to take you through to get there, right? And that's really that's the vision. Now, part of that is, okay, well, we don't really know exactly the end of the journey, but we believe that by doing these things along the way, that this vision or this dream of data-informed real estate investing or buying or whatever that acquisitions can become more of a reality than it has been to date, right?
So let's dive into this. What is data-driven real estate investing? What's happening now? How are funds and real estate investors managing themselves now, and how should they be doing it? Walk us through the problem and then sort of where you end up and what the solution looks like.
Yeah, I think I don't know about you, but as long as I've been in this space, the way real estate investing has been done, even at, like I said, billion plus AUM funds, has been generally driven by gut, right? And what happens is an acquisitions person will find a deal, underwrite it. If the financials look good, then what they'll do is they'll use data to support the decision as opposed to inform the decision, right? Now, fundamentally, you're buying a business, right? When you think about real estate property, you're buying a business, and clearly the financials are important, right? But there's been this idea of, well, look, there's all this data out there. And traditionally, it's been about third-party data. So if you think about companies like Placer AI or Unicast that are collecting foot traffic data, you combine that with, publicly available data sets like, permits, employment data, some might look at tree cover data, whatever, satellite imagery, to inform, not only at the property level, but potentially at the market, the submarket, and bigger level to help identify opportunities, right? That, I think lots of companies are trying it, and I think it's picking up a lot of steam, but it's been a process that people have thought about for a long time. It just hasn't happened. It's all been gut. And I said supported by, or then you have these what I think kind of worthless documents that are like, here's the 135 male population, population, like in any marketing piece of material, right? Like
the macro level data that is in the marketing brochure that has been put together by a broker.
Yeah, and so okay, well, what do I do with this? Okay, that's cool, but how does that make my desire to not buy or not buy? It's just almost like the pages have to be filled out, so they might as well put some market data. And that's just the way it's been done. And
what do you get in these brochures? You get pictures of the interiors, you get these maps, and you get these pictures of the local amenities, and you have these really data. No, I don't even know if people look at this data, but there's just data for the sake of there being data, right? Supporting stuff. Like you said, here's the population, here's the income, and these are important, but they're what did you say? Supporting rather than informing.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think the dream, I think, of most people is to say, I have these models, right, that, and I'm not talking about AVMs, that's kind of thrown around a lot, but these models that can understand my business to, one, help me decide whether a particular investment opportunity that comes across my desk is even worth my digging in. That's one thing. And then two, models that potentially identify regions, whether it be a market or sub-market or smaller, of where I should be potentially looking, right?
So screening and opportunity analysis is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Screening. So we know, I mean, I won't say the names, but like there's companies, both large and small, who are, hiring data science teams. Like you see it across a lot of the space, like where they're hiring their own internal teams to build, data lakes and data warehouses to collect all this data to help build these types of models. I don't know yet if it has actually been successful, right? Like I know they're doing it. I know they're making investments in it. I don't know has that, or if it hasn't been successful, what level has it been successful
I think
at?
most likely it won't be successful, by the way, because all of these businesses have a core and it's sort of a fear reactive move. It's much better to use a third-party expert. Unless there's complete board level, CEO level, complete company level alignment, and they're focusing on this as the only thing they do, they'll do it well. Otherwise, in most cases, people are just taking a job at a real estate company and they'll do better than they were previously, but it won't be transformative versus a specialized vendor. That's why I like investing in PropTech, by the way, right? Because there's focused startups that can solve strategic priorities for companies. Moving back to the customer problem, this is a market where there's a lot of froth now, and people are getting a lot of FOMO when they bid on a property. When we bid on a property, we just don't understand how the hell did the winner pay what they paid. And
I agree.
I'll tell you, I've spoken to many winners, okay? And here's frankly what it comes down to. Well, we have a lot of capital we need to deploy. We're sitting on a lot of dry powder, and we had a few assumptions in our models. We're assuming that the cap rate might be reduced when we sell the property. You're like, what? So in our models at Bluefield, like we assume the cap rate's going to be the same or it's going to go up, right? If you to reduce the cap rate, one thing. Then the other thing, and we have a few assumptions around the debt, around the interest rate. Well, wow. If your interest rate assumptions are like this, and the market moves and interest rates increase or the cap rates go up, you are so screwed.
Yeah.
Right? It's not even about, and those levers are so easy to model, and the truth is most fund managers don't even look at those. All they look at is, what's the IRR? How do we make this IRR be what we want it to be? And also there's changes happening too. Now it's not about, 20% gross IRR. Now it's, the market's changed. Our LPs want us to deploy capital. We'd be okay with a 10% IRR. And then it turns into, we'd be okay with a 5% IRR. This is when there's danger happening. And so it's turning into fear-based decision making. You've got models on the spreadsheet that are being fine-tuned, and those levers are not very solid. And there isn't real data backing it up. People aren't, also like gut instinct, this feels right. Let me call up my friend who's a broker. Okay, this broker said this. That's pretty good. It's ridiculous how decisions are being made. It's absurd, isn't it?
That's what like I think one of the things that we've seen, and one of our beliefs at TermSheet is there are mountains and mountains of spreadsheets that are sitting in a folder somewhere that have a ton of valuable data, right? That you don't have to pay for. Like you've already created it. So our real belief is like we can help teams unlock that data. So like when you do go look at a property and you say, well, what are the average rents in a multifamily, or what is the average, asking cap rate, or what is my average or, tendency for, a bid cap rate, you can really begin to build, your own comps based off your own data. That's where we're seeing a ton of value from our platform is ingesting historical data from these groups, so that when they go look at a deal, they might say, well, we've looked at 20 other deals, within a mile radius of this particular property. How did we look at that deal? Where did it trade? What did we underwrite it at? What was the bid at? To really more effectively inform the particular, investment that you may be looking at. So that's where we believe we're sort of unlocking this internal data. So you're not necessarily always relying on some report or whatever.
Data, and it's the data that is just fundamentally the right way to do it. You're building on how you make decisions. You're creating a decision framework in your own company or fund by making decisions appropriately, by looking at previous decisions. In any company, doing things like postmortems and analyzing what went well, what didn't work well, and creating patterns is key. That doesn't seem to exist today in real estate. It's hustling from one deal to the next deal. It's not, is this the right deal for us? How does this compare to other deals we've looked at? Taking in external data, comparing it with internal data, and then making a decision that's right for you and your fund's returns. But this is where real estate will eventually be.
That's what we believe too, because the way it works today is the acquisitions person will say, I remember we looked at a deal 2 years ago down the street. Let me dig through my emails to pull up the OM, right? And so with a platform like us, or it's like, oh well, you not only can you see that deal, you can see the 20 other deals that you didn't look at, but someone on your team looked at, to really help better inform your decision making. So that's what we're excited about. Can you imagine
that some other person isn't on the team anymore? They left, and now you don't even know what you don't even know. Whereas if you had the infrastructure in place, you're building business intelligence. This is really one of those areas where for funds, it can allow them to compete like I don't want to say this, I used to say this, having Blackstone level technology. Even Blackstone doesn't have the best technology, I've realized. The industry is wide open. I used to think when I first started out that, okay, these small funds need to compete with the big funds and need to have the same technology. No, don't make it complicated. No one's really using technology, it turns out, in real estate. And if they are, it's so primitive compared to where it could be and should be.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why when I said earlier, the size of the company doesn't really matter. Traditionally, you think larger companies, enterprises would be more likely to have this. What we found, the size is not necessarily correlative to their tools or their desire for data. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite, where the larger funds have a bigger problem, because now, instead of looking at, 100 deals a year, they're looking at thousands of deals a year. And so, but they're not doing anything with that data more than the guys looking at 100 deals a year,
So any final thoughts to conclude on regarding where PropTech is heading in your segment specifically? What does the future look like, and what concluding remarks do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I think there's too many opportunities in PropTech. Quite frankly, it's kind of hard. It's hard as an entrepreneurial minded person to look at all of the inefficiencies that exist in the space and not bash your head against the wall and be like, gosh, we could solve that problem, we could solve that problem, we could solve that problem.
As a VC, I want to invest in literally every startup that comes across. So it's even harder as a VC because I'm seeing all the opportunities. What will your industry look like 10 years from now? How will funds operate?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, data is going to be a part of it. I don't think it's going to necessarily be automated underwrite, or I shouldn't say, AVMs or anything like that. I think it'll be more data.
Automated valuation models.
Right. I think automation, exactly. So I think it will be that there will be more data points that will help teams be better informed, right? It's not necessarily that it's going to automatically happen. It's more of the data that's, like I said, that's being downloaded in spreadsheets and called together by acquisitions teams to sort of put together an IC memo for Monday morning pipeline meetings will be more automated, because the data will, be in the right place at the right time, allow people to generate these reports but it'll be the right information that they need to make better decisions. That's my belief. It's not going to replace their decisions. It'll just be more efficient to get to that point.
So a few quick yes or no questions, okay? Number one, if this is the future, will funds be smaller? Will there be less admin staff?
That's a good question. Definitely less admin stuff. I mean, we're already seeing it, right? Like if you think about
Staff, I mean, like headcount's going to be reduced.
Oh, staff.
It's the British
for
accent.
sure. Yes.
So headcount will be reduced. Will returns be increased for these types of funds?
yes.
Okay, so doubling down on that comment, does that mean that funds that don't use this will make lower returns?
I think they'll just be more fun. These funds will be able to do more deals more quickly. And so I think by doing that, they'll be able to more effectively deploy capital.
So won't prices increase if funds are really able to extract the value?
Yeah, if you believe in like an efficient market, then yes.
Because then I was going to say, well, actually, then shouldn't returns just equalize and be the same as?
Yeah, I guess eventually they will. I mean, we're seeing it, right? Like
the real winners, and this is how history has tended to repeat itself, are the people that use the dumbest technologies possible to buy real estate and just hold it. Because real estate goes up and up and up, doesn't it? I mean, it shouldn't, but it does, right? And although having said that, some real estate might go down a lot too, because people.
Well, it depends when you're buying it. Like if you're, like you said, your guys you're talking to, if they're buying it, they underwrite it based on some crazy assumptions that historically have been true, then they're going to get screwed.
So what it comes down to is this, right? The dream scenario is, will there be like a hedge fund that's able to get so much scale by using data to buy real estate, and it means that no longer can our listeners who want to break into real estate, or our listeners who own real estate already, can play anymore. Just like it's very hard for an individual trader. I mean, you could talk about Robinhood and the stock manipulation that happens, sure, but the cards are stacked against you. You either have the technology, you become giant and you become big, or you don't. Aren't there going to be barriers to entry eventually? Aren't the real estate funds going to get bigger and bigger?
It's happening.
Look at mobile home parks. That's a classic example. 2 years ago, you would not touch a mobile home park. I've dug into these really deep. You wouldn't touch a mobile home park below an 8 cap. Now you can't find one like above a 6 cap or above a 6.5 cap. Well, why is that? It's because the institutional investors have come in and they've bought everything up. Their capital is cheaper, right? They can deploy it quicker. But is there opportunity still in mobile home parks? Yeah, the where it exists is $1 million and below parks, right? That's where it exists. So my belief is that opportunities will still exist. They'll just be different. Think about now, people are looking at Airbnb rentals, right? Because it's like, well, I can't buy an apartment building because it's a 4 cap, so I'll buy an Airbnb. Well, eventually there's going to be a fund that only invests in, while you're seeing it, in these the single family rental, SVR sort of funds, right? Like they're going to start gobbling all those up too.
Yeah, so I think PropTech's going to hold a lot of promise. I think there'll be more data-focused approaches. I think there will be, I actually think real estate funds are going to be left behind if they don't adopt technology, and the ones that adopt technology are going to get larger and larger, and are going to basically have more and more scale and more data. And I think prices are going to go up across the board. No matter what happens with cap rates, no matter what happens with interest rates, inflation is real estate values will increase, and people will pay even more for real estate when they realize how valuable it is. Yeah. So on that note, that was a positive note to end on. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Zain. I appreciate the time. Good talking to you.